Right now on the National Weather Desk, severe weather season is here.
Oh my gosh, you just hit this building.
As a tornado damages homes and businesses in Alabama.
Take a look at this trailer. It is completely flipped upside down.
The nation's expanding drought contributes to wildfires in Florida.
In my 20 years here, this is one of the driest times.
Will a below-average snowfall season in the Northwest turn into a terrible wildfire season?
Definitely still a lot of factors as we head into the summer of 2026.
Plus, remembering a powerful earthquake that struck 25 years ago, and what you need to know about this weekend's Parade of Planets.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The National Weather Service will be surveying damage in Alabama today after at least one tornado struck the state on Thursday. This video was taken in the town of Trussville, northeast of Birmingham. An estimated 20 homes were damaged in the storm, which struck in the middle of the afternoon. While there is plenty of damage, there are no reports of injuries or deaths. Now we have two reports, starting with Emily Cundiff.
Emergency crews responded to the Pinson area around 3:30 p.m. after reports of structural damage.
There's damage to somewhere around 15 structures, including City Hall, a little bit on the roof. There is widespread power outage in Pinson and some of the surrounding areas.
Approximately 22 residents displaced tonight. The Red Cross is on scene assisting those families. Despite the damage, there have been no injuries reported. Downed trees, power lines, and structural damage have been reported, including damage to several buildings. Many traffic signals are out, and officials say several homes without utilities.
Take a look at this trailer. It is completely flipped upside down, and take a look underneath of it right here. You see this portable toilet that is completely smashed underneath the trailer.
Just across the road here, a line of uprooted trees. There were also reports of roof damage in this immediate area.
I was like, oh my goodness, because the dumpster just got like flipped over. All the trees just kind of went like at once. Just incredibly blessed that, we all got away relatively unscathed with just minor property damage.
And that same system brought hail to Tennessee. This video was taken around 9:15 last night, just west of Chattanooga. While you can see the hail piling up on this viewer's desk, we have no reports of significant damage. The latest information from the U.S. Drought Monitor shows large sections of the country desperately need rain. Some of the driest places are in the south. Large areas are under extreme drought, which you can see in red right here on this map. One of the worst situations is in Florida, where 2/3 of the state is under extreme drought. That's one of many reasons why many wildfires are burning there and why a state of emergency remains in effect for several of those areas right now. Jack Wu has more.
Fire weather has St. Lucie County first responders scrambling to find resources. Dry and windy weather continues to increase dangerous conditions for wildfires. St. Lucie County extends the state of emergency that originally went into effect earlier this month. Eric Gill explains how this helps first responders during trying times.
If one of those vehicles were to be damaged or needed repairs, it would allow them to expedite those repairs and get it fixed in a hurry because we know we're in the dry season. This is one of the earlier burn bans we've had here in St. Lucie County, but our ERD staff, the Environmental Resources staff, has assisted on 15 fires in the last 3 weeks.
Fire officials warned that the threat isn't over.
In my 20 years here, this is one of the driest times. You look at the lack of rainfall, but also these 2 cold snaps we had, that's really dried out a lot of moisture.
Michaels advises people to make sure they keep their lawns trimmed and to keep any loose brush away from their home. He also stresses the need for an exit plan.
Have an escape plan. During a hurricane, if we have to evacuate a structure, do you have your medicines? Do you have your important documents? Having a plan before something does happen.
It's been a down year for snowfall in the Pacific Northwest. Many are concerned that means it will be an extreme wildfire season, but as meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell explains, it might not be as bad as people may think.
In the South Sound area, the Cascades, that's roughly around Mount Rainier, if you're familiar with that, we're only at 36% of our normal snowpack. So the talk all around Washington and the Northwest is that this means definitely it's going to be a terrible fire season year coming up as we head into summer. And that's not necessarily the case. It's not just the amount of snowpack or how wet your fall, winter, and spring are leading into summer that determines what kind of a fire season you're going to have. In fact, sometimes if you end up really wet, get a lot of snowpack, and you grow a lot of fuel and then dry it out, that can just lead to more fire worry because you've got all that fuel. And we saw that happen, frankly, in January of 2025 in Los Angeles. They'd had a couple of really good soggy seasons, had a whole bunch of that brush and the grass that grew and then dried out. And then we had some of the most devastating fires in modern history there, obviously, in Los Angeles. So more rain, not necessarily a good thing anyway. A lot of factors we don't know about yet this far in advance either. We don't know yet if we're going to have rounds of hot, dry, northeasterly winds. Those are the kind of winds that really do dry out the field quickly here along the West Coast. So that part remains to be seen. Another unknown is dry summer lightning. Those are the thunderstorms that bubble up in the summer months, and they tend to be heavy on the lightning and light on the precipitation. So they're known as dry lightning storms. Way too far in advance to know if that's going to take shape. And the most unpredictable part of all, what will the humans do? Sometimes our actions can lead to those fires in the summer, whether it's fireworks or throwing out a cigarette out of the car or just leaving a campfire unattended that can get a fire going.
Utah's warm, dry winter could impact prices at the grocery store. Farmers say people should expect to pay more for meat and also produce this year. Samantha Hoffman has more.
Family farmer and FAA advisor Lucas Stout says prices will continue to rise as the winter hasn't brought enough snow or rain for Utah farms.
We got a snowstorm a couple days ago and everyone's all happy about it, but not even a fraction of what we actually need.
He says farmers are dependent on melting snow and rain to fill the river and aquifers for hot summer months. Low water levels impacts both produce and meat.
You need water to grow plants, you need plants to feed cows, you need water to keep cows from being thirsty. If I have like corn or peaches or potatoes or whatever, if I have such a small amount, but because it's the rarity of it, it's going to drive prices up.
What needs to be done to keep farms healthy and grocery prices down?
I think definitely is supporting the small-time farmer. Just making sure that we're using water properly and making sure that it does go to things that are more of a need versus a want.
Well, tomorrow marks 25 years since a powerful earthquake rocked Washington state. A 6.8 magnitude quake rocked the region for 40 seconds on February 28, 2001. As Theron Zahn reports, emergency management officials are using the anniversary to help people get ready for the next time the ground starts shaking.
It's been a quarter of a century since the Nisqually earthquake shook the ground across western Washington. Those who lived through it remember the motion of the earth and the destruction left behind.
The building looks like it's a goner. I do believe Seattle Chocolate will survive, but it may take different quarters.
The quake was a magnitude 6.8. The ground shook for 40 long seconds. When it stopped, billions of dollars in damage. While for some, the Nisqually quake seems like just yesterday, scientists say it just reset the clock for the next big shaker in our area.
Nisqually was in 2001, 25 years ago. But in 1968, there was a similar earthquake of a similar size, and in 1949 before that. So every few decades, at least for the last 100 years or so, there's been an earthquake like Nisqually.
That's why emergency management officials want you to take this anniversary as a reminder to make sure you're ready for when the ground rumbles again.
We're blessed in this region with an area that has, beautiful terrain, big mountains, volcanoes, the sea, but that comes along with being on an active plate boundary, an active place where the tectonic plates are meeting. That's just part of life in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, 30 people were rescued from a South Carolina ship after strong winds caused the gangway to collapse. The U.S.S. Laffey is a World War II era destroyer that's open to visitors near Charleston. Now, officials say a mooring line snapped in the wind Thursday afternoon, causing the gangway to fall into the water. Firefighters used an aerial ladder right here to get everyone off that ship. One person who was in a wheelchair was carried to the pier in a safety harness. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how states deal with salt and brine shortages during winter months. and storms, and you might have heard about a planetary parade happening soon in the night sky. We're going to tell you what you will and will not be able to see.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. Look at the Northeast. A nice looking day is on tap to end out the work week in the Northeast. 30s and 40s will be common this afternoon. It's a cold start to the day, though. Many of you are in the single numbers and teens. By afternoon, we should enjoy a lot of sunshine. Again, Friday, no problems here. There's a weak front approaching from the west for Saturday. You might get a brief rain or snow shower, particularly in the mountains, but look at these temps. We're in the 40s for highs on Saturday. A round of light snow is possible Sunday, followed by cooler temps into early next week.
I'm Chief Meteorologist George Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Friday looks nice and dry. Same for Saturday. We'll start to see a little more sunshine coming in too, and temperatures will start to rebound before our next disturbance may arrive early into next week. So enjoy the warm-up. We'll likely get to the 50s for highs on Friday afternoon. We'll get closer to the upper 50s, even low 60s heading into your Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Afternoon high temperatures for your Fridays will be in the upper 60s in metro Atlanta, low 60s for the mountains, 50s for North Carolina. And then we warm up the further south and the further west you go. So we'll be in the mid 70s west of Alabama, and then we'll be in the lower 70s along the Gulf Coast. We'll be in the low and middle 80s in South Florida. The front continues to progress to the south, stalling out over northern Florida.
I'm Andrew Mastrangelo, a meteorologist at WJAR in Providence, Rhode Island, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, the snowy winter in the Northeast has many cities, states, and companies taking a close look at their remaining salt supply. Will there be enough for the rest of this winter? As Sam DeCoste reports from Maine, it's often hard to know for sure.
The winters in Maine can be long and grueling, but here in Lewiston, they're actually still making salt even in late February. You can check it out over my shoulder. They're actually converting the salt into liquid so that when they use it on the roads, it's being used much more efficiently.
We went out there and we anti-iced with liquid before the storm, and that prevents the snow and ice from bonding to the pavement.
The City of Lewiston Public Works orders about 3,700 tons of salt every year. Director Reggie Poussard says the department tries to conserve it so it lasts an entire winter.
Every single storm is different. We may use 50 tons one storm and we may use 250 tons another because the length of storm, the temperatures, the surface temperatures.
Poussard says by March 1st every year, his goal is to have 1,000 tons of salt still in the shed. Right now they have about 750. He says that should be enough to last Lewiston until the end of the season. In July, Poussard will buy a new supply for next year. Things work a little differently for the private sector. For Justin Verrill and V&M Construction, they buy the salt as they need it.
You're always guessing based upon previous years of how much you use. So we figure that we have this, and then we build in a little fluff, and then we hope, we hope to come out square.
Verrill says at this point, the company has about 30 tons in stock. He thinks it will be enough, but if it's not...
If I have to go buy salt after I run out, I will pay double what I normally pay to pick up in the yard. If March is bad, and we have 10 events, yes, I'm going to buy extra salt.
Verrill says his company uses salt every time there is snowfall in the area, even if it's not plowable snow.
And there's a tool to help keep the public better informed about the intensity of severe weather threats. Meteorologist David Holtman explains what it is.
One of the main sources of information provided to the public for forecasting hazardous weather comes from the Storm Prediction Center's severe weather outlooks. You may have seen the maps before, where it shows 5 different levels of severe weather risk, from level 1, signifying a low chance of severe weather, to a level 5, signifying an extremely high chance. While helpful, this information had a major limitation. The old map would tell you how likely you are to receive severe weather, but not talk about how intense the severe weather would be. For example, a 60-mile-per-hour windstorm would still fall into the same category as a 100-mile-per-hour windstorm. To fix this, the SPC is releasing severe weather intensity maps.
Technology has continued to improve over in recent years. The Storm Prediction Center has been able to look back and has been experimenting with this over recent years to be able to see how much they're able to communicate that. And they feel comfortable at this point that we're at a point that we can reliably add value by sharing this information.
Here's an example map from the 2020 derecho to show you how the new outlooks would work. The original SPC map would still stay the same, showing a moderate chance of strong winds in eastern Iowa. However, the change would also include a separate intensity map highlighting where 90-mile-per-hour winds or greater would be likely to occur.
You may have heard about a planetary parade happening tomorrow night, but reality is often different from what's promised on social media. Meteorologist Phil DeCastro breaks down what you will and will not be able to see.
There's almost always something interesting going on in the night sky, and as we close out February, you may hear chatter of a planetary parade of our solar system neighbors tracking across the heavens above. But in this instance, it's more hype than it is substance. Yes, there are technically 6 planets above the horizon in our night sky right now. Those planets are Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. But there are some big caveats. 4 out of the 6 planets are going to be very low in the western sky and pretty close to the sun. And as a result, we probably won't be able to see them until 30 to 45 minutes after sunset, and then only for about another half hour before they start setting below the horizon. And also, only 4 of those planets are so-called naked eye planets. Neptune and Uranus are never visible without either powerful binoculars or a telescope. So in theory, if you have the means to view all 6, this is about where they are about a half hour after sunset, just after 6 p.m. We've got Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and Neptune all low in the western sky. Uranus is about 2/3 of the way up the sky from the horizon to the south. Jupiter is about 2/3 of the way up the horizon as you will look to the southeast. But in reality, you'll only really briefly be able to see Venus and Saturn in the western sky, maybe Mercury if you're lucky, before they start to disappear below the horizon. And overhead, it's only Jupiter that's visible to the naked eye. So despite promises of 6 planets, it's more likely going to be 3 or 4 at once if you don't have any equipment. And even then, only for about a half hour or so. My advice, if you want to go give it a shot, go for it. I'm never going to discourage anyone from stargazing or exploring the world around them. But if your evenings are busy or you just don't want to stand out in the cold, don't feel any FOMO about this one.
Ohio meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael answers viewer questions on Facebook every week in a segment he calls Weather Bucket. Let's take a look at the questions he's answering this week.
What is up, everyone? Andrew Buck-Michael back with another round of your Weather Bucket questions. We already did some winter questions. Let's see how many we can get done here in about 90 seconds. All right, first one here coming in from Elizabeth. I don't remember other winter storms being named as Fern was. Well, that's the Weather Channel that names that. Kind of like a marketing thing. We don't talk about the names here on air, or the National Weather Service does not either. Jerry asking, is it the fact that no 2 snowflakes are the same shape? It's really hard to prove that because you'd have to take it under a microscope when it's really cold, but no one's ever found 2 snowflakes that are identical. Plus, as you see here, they do change shape based off of how cold it is outside. Question coming in from Jeff. Who records the accuracy of Buckeye Chuck? How is his record versus Phil? So I kind of grade it based off of the average temperatures for March and also February, how it compares to normal. Buckeye Chuck was not very accurate here in Central Ohio, but if you look at lately, he's been a little bit more accurate. And for Punxsutawney Phil, it's a little harder because what different area, you have to kind of look at specific areas, how accurate he is. It might be different in Florida versus Pennsylvania versus Minnesota. So I focus Buckeye Chuck in central Ohio primarily. All right, great. Final question here from Matt. Average high and low temperatures based off the previous 30 years of data. What dates for our area have seen the largest or smallest changes? The biggest changes we've noticed are the overnight lows. Those are going up a little bit faster than the average high temperatures, but even the average high temperatures, they change about every 10 years, have been going up about 1 degree for us every 10 years, at least based off the latest normal changes. Great questions. If you have any more, send them right here and we'll add them to the weather bucket.
And for more weather news and videos, be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. And time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over New York City.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Got a slight chance for maybe a little bit of snow to the far north today, but for most of us, look at all the sunshine and warmer temperatures. We got a lot of 60s and 70s on the map. If you live to the north, a little bit cooler. We'll be in the 50s. However, tomorrow we got our little clipper system sliding through with a chance for some snow showers on your Saturday. As we get to your Sunday, some light snow and rain mixed across the Midwest.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. The only cool spots, Amarillo and Oklahoma, and back on over into Little Rock. We are looking at 40s there. Elsewhere, 60s, near 70 degrees down in Brownsville. A weak cold front will bring some sprinkles down to South Texas, but that's pretty much it. It will be sunny and warm throughout most of the region, with temperatures being warmer than normal. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a happy final Friday of February, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Spring training in the Valley of the Sun. Get ready for some sun and a feel of summer ball because it just keeps getting hotter. Highs today in the low to the mid-90s between Phoenix and Tucson. Back into the upper 80s in San Diego, 40s out of Jackson Hole, the coldest spot here out west. And you can see dry conditions all the way through the Four Corners today. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
And now let's check out a preview of this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar.
53 miles. That's all that separates Alaska from Russia today. But 20,000 years ago, that gap was a 1,000-mile wide land bridge, and the people who crossed it were likely the first humans ever to set foot in North America. Native Alaskans have survived Russian colonialism, the forced reshaping of their land, waves of missionaries who stripped indigenous children of their language and culture in abusive boarding schools. They're incredibly resilient, but their challenges are far from over. Because today the people of Alaska face a new and daunting obstacle: catastrophic climate change. In part one of this series, we looked at the science behind Alaska's changing climate. We talked about the remnants of Typhoon Halong, but statistics don't tell you what it feels like when the tide starts rising outside your window at midnight. This is part 2. And this is the story of what happens when a storm meets a village that's been standing for generations.
And you can find Off the Radar anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.